Good afternoon. Today joining us Mary Beth Bonacci, and she will be presenting the topic, Respect Yourself, the Value of Waiting. It was a speaker series on love she attended in her senior year of the college that first piqued Mary Beth Bonacci's interest in the subject. At that time, she realized that single people are really looking for love, not just sex. Respect for the meaning of human sexuality is part of what enables us to find and live real love, and someone needs to go out and tell the world. So she did. She started speaking locally her good deed as she graduated and began her ascent up the corporate ladder. But as the demand for her talks grew, her corporate career went by the wayside. Speaking and writing became a full-time career. That was in 1987. She founded Real Love Inc. 9 years later in 1996. Today, Mary Beth is an internationally known speaker. Her major addresses include an audience of 10,000 at the Gente Nueva conference in Monterrey, Mexico, an audience of 75,000 at World Youth Day in Denver, Colorado, an audience of 22,000 at the TWA Dome during the People's Visit to St. Louis, and a national seminar for single adults in Uganda, Africa.
She does frequent radio and TV work and has even made several appearances on MTV. Mary Beth's book, Real Love, has been translated into 6 languages. She is also the author of We Are on a Mission from God and 2 regularly published columns. She has developed numerous educational videos and 2 video series, Real Love, the video series, and Taking a Stand. Her video, Sex and Love, What's a Teenager to Do, was awarded the Crown Award for Best Youth Curriculum. Mary Beth holds a bachelor's degree in organizational communication from the University of San Francisco, a master's degree in theology of marriage and family from the John Paul II Institute, and an honorary doctorate in communications from the Franciscan University of Steubenville. She's a member of the Fellowship of Catholic Scholars and the National Speakers Association. Mary Beth serves on the Board of Trustees for Bishop Matchbook High School and the Board of Directors for Martha Associates, and on the Board of Advisors for the Alexander House. So first of all, we have to say that it's an honor to have you here. We hope you enjoy your stay here in Guatemala, and please let's welcome her with a big applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Gracias. Yo quería hablar con ustedes solamente en español, pero no es posible. Porque no puedo. He estudiado español durante 4 años en escuela, pero hace muchos años. Muchos años. So I have to speak to you in English. But I can tell you that you are muchachas muy bonitas. Sí. Every one of you. I suspect many of you don't know your own beauty. But I look at every one of you, and you are beautiful. You are beautiful, beautiful young women. And that's how God made you. He made you to be beautiful. He made you to be women. And He knew what He was doing when He made you that way. What do you want more than anything in the world? Do you want nice clothes? Do you want a glamorous career? Do you want a boyfriend? ¿Cómo se dice boyfriend en español? I should know better than to ask 600 girls to tell me a word because I can't understand it. Boyfriend. Is there something more? Something really deep that you want, but you can't really explain it? But you know it's there? For many girls, they feel that, And they think that a boyfriend will satisfy them. They think that, I used to think that when I was your age. If I just had a boyfriend, I'd be happy. And then I got a boyfriend, and I said, if I just had a different boyfriend, I'd be happy. Because I found that wasn't it. It didn't. I thought that that would make me happy. I could be like all the couples on TV, and he would love me and put his arm around me and wipe away my tears when I was sad. And I would never be lonely again. And it didn't happen that way. And I was very disappointed. I realized that what I was longing for wasn't a boyfriend. It was love. Not just the love of a really good boyfriend or the love of a really good man, but love. Just love. And it was difficult because I knew that's what I wanted, but I didn't know what it was. And my friends, when I was in high school, we used to sit around and we would talk about love. And none of us knew what we were talking about. Do you know the English saying, the blind leading the blind? It was the blind leading the blind. Or sometimes I say it was the blonde leading the blonde. Because we'd say, what do you think love is? I think love is when you know a boy and you can't stop thinking about him. Well, I think love is when you don't want to eat because you think about him so much. I think, and we all had these dumb ideas. And then I got another boyfriend. And he was one of these guys, have you ever known someone like this who loves to be in love? So, after we'd been dating about 45 minutes, he said, I love you. And I said, thank you. And he kept saying, do you love me? Please say you love me because I love you. I love you so much. Please say you love me. And now I need to know, what is love? So I would ask people, what is love? Oh, it's a feeling in your heart. You'll know in your heart when you're in love. And I would say, have you met me? I'm a teenage girl. My feelings don't stay put for more than 45 seconds, right? My feelings are all up and down. So I couldn't get an answer. And he kept saying, I love you, I love you. And finally I said, I love you. And in my mind I was thinking, I'm a Christian. I love everyone. Bless you, my son, you know. I don't know. ¿Qué es amor? What is love? I have found that people use the word love a lot of different ways. I love my nieces and nephews. I should have put a picture up there for you. They're, muchachos y muchachas muy, muy, muy bonitos, bonitas, whatever. They are very beautiful children, and I love them very much. And sometimes they sleep at my house, and sometimes when they sleep at my house, they throw up in my bed. See, I don't like that because I like two things. I like sleep, and I like not having throw up in my bed. Those are my two things I like very much. But I love them more, and I want to make sure they're okay. So I don't say, go away, get your throw up out of my bed, take care of yourself. I say, come here, honey, I'll take care of you because I love them more. And I'm willing to sacrifice to make sure they're okay. Now, I also love pizza. I see you eating the little pizzas tonight. What am I saying when I say I love pizza? Am I saying I have a relationship with pizza? Am I saying I care about pizza? Am I saying that if pizza has a problem, I'll be there for pizza? Do I talk to pizza about its feelings? No. When I say I love pizza, I'm just saying I eat pizza because it makes me feel good, right? And if it doesn't make me feel good, if I don't like the pizza, if it's a kind of pizza I don't like anchovy and chocolate chip, I don't care what happens to the pizza. I don't care. I'll put it in the refrigerator until it gets all dry and yucky. I'll feed it to the dog. I don't care. I only care about the pizza if it makes me happy. How do you want someone to love you? Do you want them to love you the way I love my nieces and nephews? Wanting what's best for you? Being willing to sacrifice to make sure you're okay? Or do you want them to love you the way I love pizza? Only wanting you around when it's good for them, and the rest of the time they don't care what happens to you. Next time someone says, I love you, I want you to look into their eyes and say, would that be pizza love or the real thing? Pizza love is using. Pizza love is when we see a person and we think, that's how I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to use that person to get what I want. I don't care what happens to them, but I'm going to get what I want through that person. That's using. It's okay to use things. It's okay to use cars and bicycles and iPhones and iPads. It's not okay to use people. Why not? Because you are created in the image and likeness of God. What does that mean? You can explain it a lot of ways, but most simply, it means that God is madly, madly in love with you. He created you, and you're his masterpiece. And he's in heaven saying, look, I made her. Isn't she cute? Isn't she beautiful? Que muchacha bonita. It's like he has your drawings on his refrigerator. He's so proud of you. And he's just crazy in love with you. Does he love you more when you're being good and less when you're being bad? No. He loves you at all times. He's sad when you're being bad because you're not respecting yourself, and he loves you. He always, always loves you. Why did God make you? Did he need you? No. God doesn't need you because he's God. He doesn't need anything. He's God. He made you because he wanted you. He made you because he got the idea of you in his brain and said, the world will be better if she's in it. I want her to exist, and I want her to be with me forever. I want her to be a woman. I want her to have a woman's body and a woman's beauty and a woman's soul, and I want her to exist. That's what it means to be created in the image and likeness of God. Now, the thing is, God is also madly, madly, madly in love with the person on your left. He is madly, madly in love with the person on your right. The person behind you, God doesn't like very much, but shh, don't tell them. He's madly in love with them. He's madly in love with everyone he creates, but uniquely. He doesn't just love you because you're one of them. He loves each of you uniquely. And he created you so that you would only be really, truly happy when you are doing what he does, which is loving. Which means every time we look at another person, we don't think, what can I get from that person? We think, wow, that person is created in the image and likeness of God. God is madly in love with that person. That person wasn't created for my sake. She was created for her sake. He was created for his sake. I need to do what God would do if he was here, which is to look out for what is best for that person. Real love means respecting the image and likeness of God in every person. Can you imagine what the world would be like if everyone did that? Can you imagine what your school would be like? What your family would be like? What your city would be like? If every time someone looked at someone else, they thought, wow, God created you and I'm going to look out for what's best for you. If every time someone looked at you, they saw the beauty that God gave you, is that getting a little closer to what we long for in our hearts? Now, I always have to say, we say that real love means wanting what's best for the other person, but I'm always careful to say that real love means respecting the image and likeness of God in every person. What if you have a boyfriend, and having a boyfriend is not necessarily something I recommend when you're in high school, we'll talk about that later, but imagine a girl who has a boyfriend, and she says, I love him, and I want what's best for him. Sure, he hits me, and kicks me, and breaks my ribs, and calls me names, and hurts my feelings. It's okay because I love him, and all I want is what's best for him. And I'm a good influence on his life. And ever since we've been together, he doesn't hold up liquor stores as often as he used to. Is that love? Which image and likeness of God is she forgetting about? Her own. Real love means respecting the image and likeness of God everywhere, including in ourselves. Everywhere. Remembering that God created everyone and respecting that image and likeness of God in others and in ourselves. So, there are different kinds of love, right? There's agape love. That's the love we have for people we don't know, right? When we help those who are poorer than we are, when the United States, when we send aid, do we do that because we feel warm, fuzzy feelings for these people? No. We don't even know them. We just do it because we know they're created in the image and likeness of God. That's called agape love. Then there's family love. If you could choose any family in the world to be your family, would you choose the one you have? Depends on the day, right? Your mood. Who was mean to you this morning? In the family, we learn about love because we can't trade them in for another one. So we learn to love the ones that God gave to us. Then there's friend love. Friend love is nice because we can choose who our friends are, right? And as you get older, you make friends. When you're little, who are your friends? Your parents' friends' kids, right? You don't really have much choice. This is Mariana, she's your friend. Okay, let's go play. When you get older, you start to say, wow, I like you. We have the same interests. We see the world the same way. And you can choose your friends, and you can have many friends. When you make one friend, you don't have to break up with another friend. It's very nice. Then there's in love. And that's the love everyone always wants to know about. What is in love? Is in love when you can't stop thinking about someone? When your heart goes pitter-patter every time you see them? Is in love a feeling? No. In love is much more than a feeling. In love is when two people look at each other and they say, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to give you my life. I want to bring children into the world with you. And I want you to help raise them. Could that all just be based on a feeling? Do you think when people get married that they have that warm, wonderful feeling forever? And every morning they wake up and look at each other and say, I'm so glad I married you, because every day since we've been married is just a happy, wonderful dream. You know, if that feeling lasted through their whole marriage, their marriage would be very short because they would die. Because their hearts would just explode. In love is when your heart and your brain agree. In love is when your heart's really excited about someone, because you want to marry somebody you're excited about, right? You don't want to just say, okay, you would be a good person. The computer says that we are compatible, so whatever. In love is when you're excited about this person and you like being with this person and you have fun and you're compatible, but your brain also says, this is a good person. This is a man who loves me with real love. This is a man who sees not just the beauty of my youth and my young face that will change over time. This is a man who sees the beauty in my soul. This is a man who sees me as God sees me. This is a man who wants what's best for me. This isn't a man who just wants what he can get from me. This is a man who I want to raise children with. This is a man I want my sons to be like. That's when your heart and your head agree. What if your heart's all excited about someone, but your brain says, no, sorry? What does your heart usually say? It's okay. I can change him. I'll change him. I promise I can. I know I can. If this has not happened to you yet, it will. And it's difficult because our hearts don't just stop. They keep saying, please, please, please. But our brains have to say, no, please, no, please, no. 6 months later, please, no. You need to wait until your heart and your brain agree, because that feeling won't last. It comes and goes in a good marriage. It goes away for a while, and then in a really good marriage, it comes back even deeper. But if the brain isn't there, then when the feeling goes away, there's nothing left. There's no compatibility. There's no real decision love. So in love is when your heart and your brain agree. So what happens? This is about the marriage decision. Teenagers ask me, I don't know if I'm in love with my boyfriend. And I say, are you planning to get married soon? They say, of course not. I say, then who cares? Doesn't matter. Call it in love, call it pizza, call it anything. It doesn't matter. In love is about the marriage decision. So these two people, they say, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And they say it out loud in a church, in front of a lot of people. And something happens. Marriage is not something that we invented. Marriage was not invented by the Catholic Church or by a government or by the ancient Greeks or anyone else. Marriage was created by God at the very beginning of creation. And when a man and a woman get married, God changes their souls. He binds their souls together. That's why for those of you who are Catholic, it's very important to get married in the church. And those of you who are not Catholic, it's very important to get married in your church. But for those of us who are Catholic, it's a sacrament. And that sacrament for Catholics happens in the church when we're in front of God in the Eucharist. And the priest witnesses us as we join together and we receive graces. You know what graces are? They're help from God. Do you think people who get married need help from God? I'm not married, but I hear they need a lot of help from God because it's difficult to be married. My grandparents were married for 68 years. Tomorrow, my parents will be married for 50 years. And they say it's not always easy. But on the altar, they say, I give myself to you. Now, what do they do then? In America, they go on an expensive trip they can't afford to a tropical place. We call this the honeymoon. Do you have honeymoons here? Okay. What do they do on the honeymoon? Don't answer that. This is the part of the talk where some of you start thinking, uh-oh, is she going to talk about sex? It's a good thing the boys aren't here because I get so embarrassed when people talk about sex, when they talk about the details, when they talk about how it works in public. And then you think, how come I get so embarrassed anyway? Because sex is supposed to be the most wonderful thing in the world, and here I am, I get all embarrassed about it, so clearly there's something wrong with me, and I'm going to grow up to be some kind of weird, sexually hung up adult. Your next thought is, how does this lady know I think all these things? Here's how I know. Because it's normal. Because God made you that way. And that is why we're not going to talk about the details tonight. We're going to talk about why God created it. We're going to talk about how to respect it. But we're not going to talk about how it works. If you have questions about how it works, ask your parents. You laugh. This poor woman, she doesn't know my parents. She doesn't know they don't know anything about sex. Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure they do. You're here. You exist. That's enough evidence for me. And even if you're adopted, I'm pretty sure they know how it works. So, what we will say is that in the wedding, the man and the woman say, I give myself to you. On the honeymoon, they make that gift real with the gift of their bodies. When they give their bodies to each other, they give themselves to each other. And that's a very sacred event. Do you know what sacred means? It means holy. It means something that's so special that it's set aside in a special place. Like those of you who are Catholic, you know the Eucharist is very sacred, right? It's the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Cristo. So we put it in a special place, right? We put it in the tabernacle, the beautiful gold box on the altar with a little light next to it. The priest doesn't leave the Eucharist laying around his house, right? And forget where it is and have to look under the sofa cushions. We keep it in a special place. Sex is sacred, and God wants us to keep it in a special place in our hearts. And so he made us to get embarrassed when people talk about the details, because God doesn't want us to feel comfortable talking about the details the same way we talk about lunch. He wants it to be special. So that feeling you have that you're embarrassed when people talk about the details, many young girls think, I have to get rid of that. I have to get comfortable talking about the details so I can be cool, so I can be like all the Americans on television. That's wrong. You want to protect that feeling. That feeling, that embarrassment, that is your innocence. And it's a gift from God. And it protects the beauty that is your feminine body. Your body is an amazing thing. A woman's body is a beautiful, amazing thing. We can carry new life inside ourselves. God places new life in us. New life, a new person he's madly in love with, grows and develops in our bodies. And our bodies are very complicated and beautiful in the way God created them. And we need to protect that beauty and that gift. And that feeling of embarrassment you get is part of that. So I want you to protect it. I don't want you to try to get over it. That feeling is to get over on your wedding night. When you give this precious, precious gift of your body to your husband, to the man that you decided that you know loves you with real love, and sees you with the eyes of God, and doesn't just see the beauty of your face, but sees the beauty of your soul. The man who is committed to spending the rest of his life looking out for what is best for you. That's when you give this gift of your body. Now, what happens at some point after the honeymoon? The wife starts to want funny foods, right? And then she gains weight. And then she wears tents for dresses. And then she has a baby. How did that happen? Don't answer that. Think about this. This is a person that God is madly, madly in love with. This is a person with a soul that's going to live forever. God's plan is to fill the world up with these people. And he could do that any way he wanted, right? He could bring people into the world any way he wanted. We could order them on the internet. They could be delivered by a courier. God chose sex. God chose to work through a man and a woman giving themselves to each other. Now, what does that mean? Is sex dirty? Is it bad? No. It's sacred. God is there. God is there prepared to perform his most creative act, bringing a new life into the world. That is as close as we can get to God outside of the sacraments in this life, is cooperating with him in bringing a new human person in the world. And that person comes from the love of the husband and wife. There's a speaker in America named Scott Hahn, and he says the love between a husband and wife is so real that 9 months later you have to give it a name. Isn't that nice? Their love becomes a person. Now, what about people who are not created in love? What about a baby that's conceived in rape? Or a baby that's conceived because two teenagers were having sex when they shouldn't be? Does God love that baby? Does God love that baby every bit as much as any other person he creates? Does God wish that that baby had been conceived in a family with a father and a mother who were going to be there and committed to stay instead of in an act of violence? Sure. But God, for some reason, gives us control over his bringing new life into the world. If I was God, I wouldn't do that. I'd say, you're having 5, you're having 2, you don't get any. You get 15 because you're fabulous. But God writes straight with crooked lines. He takes this child he loves, who someone brought into the world in bad circumstances, and he loves them. And he meets them where they are and works with them to make their lives good. So this is the most important thing about sex. It brings a new life into the world. Now, remember we talked about how it's difficult to be married? It's difficult to stay married sometimes. God wants to help these people stay married. And the more we learn about science, the science of sex, the more we learn how much God helps us. You know what hormones are? You have many of them right now flying around in your body, and they don't know what to do yet, so they're bored, so they mess with you and do things like make you cry all day long when nothing is wrong. There's a hormone called oxytocin that a woman's brain produces when she's having a baby. A woman's brain produces a lot of oxytocin when she's having a baby. Men's and women's brains produce oxytocin in sexual activity. Here's what oxytocin does something to our brains. It causes us to be forgetful. It decreases our ability to think rationally. It causes strong feelings of trust, even if there's no reason to feel trust. And it causes strong feelings of attachment. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Sex causes people to be forgetful. Having sex with someone causes them to be forgetful. It decreases their ability to think rationally. It causes them to trust the person they're with, even if they have no reason to trust them. And it gives them a strong, strong feeling of attachment to that person. That's the emotional effect of sex. Can you see where this would be good for married people? To be forgetful? Did we have a fight yesterday? I don't remember. That's good. It's what helps them look at each other and say, I think you're so cute, especially when you wad up your dirty laundry and stick it in the back of the closet and I can smell it from clear down the street. I just love that about you. It's good. It's like the super glue of the heart. It helps married people stay married. So, look at what we just learned. We learned that when a man and a woman have sex, it brings new life into the world. We learned that it causes strong feelings of attachment. We learned that in having sex, they are giving themselves to each other. Do you see a pattern here? Everything about sex is about forever. John Paul II says that sex speaks the language of self-donation. You know what a donation is? It's where you give something and you can't take it back. Right? You can't make a donation to your church and then say, yeah, I need that back. Self-donation, the language of self-donation means I give myself to you. Not I loan myself to you for a little while, I give myself to you in love. The language of self-donation. That is the language that God created sex to speak. Babies are forever. You can't have a baby and play with it for a week and then return it. It's forever. This bond that imprints us on each other's hearts is forever. Sex is about forever. And what God calls us to do is respect that language. That's called chastity. Castidad. Respecting the language of sex.